Shalom, this is Avraham Shira. Welcome to Eretz Israel. We're in the Shomron tonight. It's a dark, dry, wet desert night, and we are looking at the end of Torah 29 of Likutei Moharan, which has been dealing for quite a number of pages with the Tikkun HaKlali. Now, most people know in the Jewish world, and especially, of course, the Breslov Hasidic world, that saying the 10 Tehillim, the 10 Psalms that Rebbe Nachman gave to us was called Tikkun HaKlali, the general repair. And this whole Torah goes to great lengths to explain to us how it works. That by saying these 10 Tehillim, we are activating and realigning the mind to bring mental power to, well, let's call it the lower regions of human experience. That means the body and, of course, emotions that are not appropriate for particular occasions. For example, anger and depression, other types of emotions that we know are part of something else. But the Tikkun HaKlali brings mind power to those areas. Consciousness, other people call it mindfulness. The idea, of course, is that we are beings created from the breath of God. That's a big statement, right? That's not simple. That's big mysticism right there. That God breathed our souls into us. But what is that breath made of? It's made of a structure called the tree of life, and that structure has powers called the Sefirot, and those Sefirot are represented by angels and divine names. And they also have connections in the book of Psalms. And those powers, those angels, those divine names that are appearing in the book of Psalms also have verses. A verse is a complete entity. It is a thought, an expression that began in heaven and it came down into the mind of King David or any of the other 9 people that contributed to the writing of the book of Psalms. So when we say those 10 Tehillim, we're actually activating and actualizing the power of that was behind those statements when they were first said. And we're connecting to them. And when we connect to them, it brings new divine power into the mind, and that goes into every little crack and crevice of our soul. And he tells us earlier in this part of the Torah that if we think we can fix every little sin, we'll never do it. It's impossible. There's innumerable details that we can never get to. But by the Tikkun HaKlali, the general repair, we can enter all the little places we don't even know we need to fix. And that's a great thing because, we just say the Tehillim with a heart for God and let Him do the rest. He can send the power of the soul into the places that we don't even know where it needs to go, right? Okay. So now at the end of the last paragraph, which is paragraph tet, but it goes on for quite a while, the last section of the last paragraph before Rebbe Nachman comments on the Torah, which he often does. And his comments are always useful and insightful because it shows you how the great student thinks about the great teacher and how he joins his mind with the teacher and yet he retains his ability to question. To be a good student doesn't mean you become a sponge. It means you empty your mind to receive a greater mind, but at the same time, you still question. And you have ideas that you want to know about. Because that's part of the beauty and the greatness of Judaism is that we don't shut down questioning like it happens in a lot of religions and other political systems in the world. We encourage questioning because questions come from the power called koach ma, the power of the question, which is, of course, the letters of chokhmah. Wisdom means the ability to ask questions. So he's going to ask a lot of questions, but tonight we're just going to talk about one little bit of the paragraph. He says like this, in the last of it, Tzarich litaken al yedei tikkun klali hashayach lo. Every sin has its own tikkun klali. So what does that mean? It's the same 10 Tehillim. Whether it's for impropriety in business or in sexuality or in relationships in Torah. Wherever we make a mistake, the Tikkun HaKlali is going to help. But he says something very interesting. It's not just the 10 Tehillim. The Tikkun HaKlali is what fixes us by our actions as well. For example, a person who cheats in business. I think it happens here and there, I've heard stories. I try to not get in the middle of that. But when people cheat in business, how do they fix it? Well, of course, they need to stop cheating. But that's not the Tikkun HaKlali. That's just the doorway to get into fixing ourselves. So I'm not even a person who would want to cheat in business. See, there's the urge to do that. Then there's the action. So we can stop cheating because we know it's wrong and we feel ashamed. But we want to uproot the entire urge, the greed, the fear of poverty, all the other things that cause people to steal. We need to uproot that level. And how do you uproot the urge to steal, to cheat people in business? He tells us. By giving charity. Isn't that interesting? Instead of taking people's money and lying about various, misinformations and disinformations, this used car is a wonderful car. We drove it to Africa and back. It's fine. Not telling the truth is a form of stealing because you're stealing someone's mind. You're letting them think something that's not true. That's also stealing. And so on, even achizat einayim. Let's say you sell someone a car and you polish it all up, but it's terrible inside. So that's also achizat einayim. That's grabbing the eyes. That's stealing somebody's das. Genevat das, it's called in Hebrew. So there's all these subtle levels, and they're not so subtle when it comes out in the field of action. So how do we fix it? Well, we've got to stop doing those things. But he says the Tikkun HaKlali, the general repair, is to give charity. Instead of taking, it's giving. It's turning the energy around. And there's so too people that cheat in other areas like private relations. What do? Well, you stop, but it's not just enough to stop. You become a different person. You become a person who gives love instead of always looking for me, me, me. And that's going to the root of the matter, and that's what the Tikkun HaKlali really is all about. It's changing the root of the thing so that you are really a different person. Now, the Arizal HaKadosh, the great master from Tzfat, he said like this: 99% of the people leave the synagogue the same person they were when they went in. Wait a minute. Let's play that again. 99% of the people leave the shul, leave synagogue, the Beit Knesset, the same they were when they went into the Beit Knesset. Why did he say that? What was he saying? Well, then we're the same people. I'm still Avraham Shira. I go to shul. I leave the shul Avraham Shira. So? No. The implication of the statement is that we're supposed to go to the synagogue to change. It's the house of change, right? The synagogue is the place we pray. No, it's the place we change. And the tool that we use to change is, of course, prayer and Torah. So the Arizal is telling us that we're not really accomplishing what we're supposed to be accomplishing, is to go and change. And that's what Rebbe Nachman was talking about here. The Tikkun HaKlali is the general repair at the level of the uprooting the desire to do something that we know is not exactly straight and true and pure. Whether it's in all these different spheres of life. People talk about other people in a shining way when they want to make you believe something. And people will talk in the opposite way when they want to make you believe something else. Just try to go out and marry your kids. In the Orthodox world, that's what we do. We try to go out and marry our kids, right? Find the good families, the good people that work out the details. But there's always people out there trying to sell you something. And you've got to be smart. You've got to look beneath the surface. When someone's trying to give you something, they're not trying to give you something. There's no such thing as giving at that level. It's all true and fair business. And in heaven, they know the price of everything. And then in heaven, they know who's the right person for the right person. So we don't have to try too hard. We just have to be smart and listen and think, wait a minute, is this really what it seems to be? And in business we see it, and in love we see it, and in all spheres. And politics don't even go there, you know. It's lost, the wheels have come off the cart, as they used to say. Okay, so this is a real new, the Rebbe gives us a new take on his own great gift, the Tikkun HaKlali, is that each act, each sin has its own Tikkun HaKlali. And he goes on to tell us that, like Maso Matan Al Yedei Tzedakah, you fix business problems, errors, by giving charity. V'chein kulam tzarich letaken kol davar she al yedei Tikkun HaKlali ashayach lo. That each thing that we do that's missing the mark has its own Tikkun HaKlali. Now, does that mean we don't say the 10 Tehillim? Here, he's using the phrase Tikkun HaKlali to go in a much broader spectrum than the normal idea of Tikkun HaKlali is he gave it for the main problem of our generation, and I think in a lot of generations, of course, is sexual purity, relations between people at that level of intimacy. And so he knew that 200 years ago that this would be a big problem, because it's a long tidal wave of averot that's been going on for a long time. Unfortunately, the Western world and the freedom that the Western world has been selling to people is not really freedom. It's enslavement to our lower selves, as opposed to freedom of from our lower selves in order to attach to our true higher